So I'm on to these Representation of the People's Acts now. There's quite a lot to sort of discuss and go through. But the thing with these elections is this, right? Once you have secured an election or a referendum, it's kind of officially been operated by the state because you've kind of like won your case to have one. It's a little bit like if you go to court for a civil case and you win, right, or a criminal case and you win, right, you know, then you can claim back expenses and so forth because it's paid for by the state or the offender, right, or in a civil case by the other party. Suppose, I don't know what's going on with civil cases now recovering costs. You know, there's arguments over that, but I think that's turned into a bit of a scam now. But theoretically, well, civil cases aren't with the state either, they're against another party. The other party's meant to pay the cost. But the thing is that elections and referendums are officially operated with everybody participating and, you know, the outcomes and so forth. So it's state funded, including the postage of it and the facilitation of it and everything. And all the laws around having them run, you're not allowed to disrupt them. Now, the thing with civil and criminal case is that in order to facilitate the proceedings, because they're official proceedings engaged with the government, the proceedings aren't allowed to be intervening or disrupted because you're going about engaging in proper proceedings, right? Because if the proceedings are disrupted, you can't do the things you need to do, like including investigation and attendance and other facilitation in order to do the process to get the judgment, and then whatever happens is going to happen, right? Now, the thing about these Representations of the People Act, that there is a lot of things about securing, you know, there are rules for broadcasting, there are rules for, you know, you can have a vehicle and use it and driving, there are rules for all kinds of things. Police aren't allowed to actually get involved and intervene and disrupt it. So placing notices and all kinds of things like that. Literally all the things you would think of are covered. And there's also jurisdiction that if you want to question it or challenge it, or if there's any issues to do with it, there only can be specific certain courts and jurisdictions. And if the case is brought from a first instance to like national level, it can't be dealt with in the local courts. So, but the thing is, all of the things throughout this act make sense to what you think of when you're thinking of, you know, the right to petition. Now, the thing with the right to petition is that, well, you want to bring a case, it's almost like kind of like a civil case, but not against another party for a claim. It's kind of almost like it's not like a criminal case against someone who's offended you, although it could be over a matter of something that wrongdoing or something that's not done right that you want looked into by the government, because obviously you don't have the capacity to do it, because it's too much of a huge matter for an individual, and they shouldn't be expected, because we're meant to have police anyway who are meant to investigate things, but they're, you know, if they won't do it, or if it's a national case, not a local case or whatever, so, or if you're trying to, you know, petition the government or the parliament that you want, and well, you want an inquiry or an investigation when you're not getting one, you know. Now the thing is, you know, so because, you know, usually, so like if you're a member of a political party, right? If you're a member of a political party, then you kind of like already got you know, like you've already got, you know, if you're a member of the Labour Party and you've got a Labour Party MP and councillors and so forth, they're already kind of like doing the things that, supposedly that you voted for and that you want to do. That is if you agree with all the things they're doing. But if you don't, why would you vote for them? Or if you want to suggest something, they're the ones who are meant to, do it in council or parliament. And if they think it's a good idea or persuade them to, this is, to do with, get along with your MPs and so forth. So you wouldn't really need to be, well, you can petition your MP for something or ministers. But the thing is, when you're not being represented by a political party who's kind of like on your side or going to help you, right? These political parties have got funding and so forth. But the thing is, the elected MPs are kind of meant to represent you politically, but if you are wanting to bring a kit to get something done, which, you are, you've got to get the support yourself. You've got to get the support. Either you've got to obtain evidence which will prove something should, or, compelling evidence why something should be changed or done, or get, evidence that the people want it done, right? Well, there's evidence that people want to do what the Labour Party want to do when they vote for them and they've got councillors, or same for the Tories. Otherwise, if you're what you call independent, then you're bringing you kind of bringing the case yourself. But the thing is, really, it's kind of like a privately funded case. The thing is, you can claim back costs if you win in civil matters, or even in criminal, you get the money back. But the thing is, let's say your petition, like Dr. Tess Lowry got her debate in Parliament, can she claim costs back? Well, this is the thing about Harry. Can Harry claim costs back? Apparently, I haven't been following Harry's case, but they're debating whether or not he can claim costs back, even though he won, even in a civil case, right? Can Tess Lowry claim costs back for a petition? She won a debate, or does it have to be whether or not the matter gets, whether or not then, that's just to get your case. It was hard enough for her to get a case heard, but then even again, Andrew Bridgen's having problems even as an MP getting things, heard in Parliament. So let's say they agree with Tess Lowry and then they, reject these World Health Association amendments. Not that I don't think they can amend them anyway because of that 1700 Act of Settlement, but this is an example. Tess Lowry then, can she claim back, all costs for what it cost her for bringing that case, I think she should be able to. But the thing is, so you can also get a referendum. This referendum thing is really important because that is like, once you get the referendum, it is being accepted as a state matter. And, everything to do with, then all the postage for everything, is free, and the communications and, the police not intervening and so forth. Now, the thing is that if you get the referendum, you absolutely definitely then, because it's going to state, you should be able to claim all of the expenses and stuff like that, because you've won the referendum and therefore it is kind of being accepted. That it's kind of like, that's kind of like almost like winning a case in the court, even like criminal cases on behalf of the state, the people. So, but the thing is, if you're pursuing a referendum and being obstructed, how can you obtain it? You can, right? But then again, if you're bringing a case independently, why should why do they have to pay costs if it's not something the government want to do or bring, unless you win, right? But the thing is, because it is legal proceedings, there are certain things to secure that you can go about what's needed to do to bring it, because it's an official matter you're engaged in, or you can't do it. So a lot of the principles and law in this Representations of the People Act, and similarly with criminal and civil proceedings, must apply. And if you win or get the thing that you're pursuing, then even all you see, a lot of these things is to do with costs and so forth, but there are principles and aspects to this Representation of the People Act which they have to apply similarly to the right to petition, or you won't be able to do it. And there's a lot of things like in this, like the police aren't allowed to intervene and so forth, and they have been doing quite a lot. Obviously, like, they're intervening mainly now when you break the law, but there's a lot of things that the law says you can do, and you're using the law, not abstract, not like very abstractly using it, like very specifically using it, and people are breaking the law. In, like, police people and prosecutor people and judges, like Max Hill, and the police take down a lot of notices. Local councils are taking down a lot of notices and things like that, and also Bristol Council, like with Teslari's banner of the M32. Now, if it was, if we not. I don't think the costs part would apply, because if you're bringing a case independently, then obviously it's kind of privately sponsored until you win, and then. But I don't think that you're taxed on it, because political parties aren't taxed. And it's non-profit, it's not for profit, it's for something in government. So, it definitely isn't for a profit, because even charities aren't taxed. So, a lot of these laws in here, in this Representations of the People Act, and particularly the levels of jurisdiction, because that pertains to who it's addressed to, really, and what area it is, they have to apply, Now, there's this thing. I've been talking for 13 minutes, and I kind of wanted to... it's called Disturbances of Election or Election Meetings. Well, this is like when you're actually having a meeting or discussing the matter, right? You've got these disturbances and interventions at meetings, which means that, like in the 1688 Bill of Rights and prior to there, like between 1661 Tumultuous Act and all through this, when all these things are going on, when they are actually getting prosecuted even for their opinion, these church courts were petitioning over getting the law changed for religion, and they were getting prosecuted just because of their religious opinion and views and all manner of things, having meetings in private, not even allowed to have meetings over matters. Well, this actually protects, it prevents intervention, right, in those meetings, stops people intervening and disrupting them. Now, you might say, well, can you, swear and shout at a meeting? Well, the thing is, you're meant to have free speech, freedom of speech. If you're talking at a meeting and speaking what you speak, in order to communicate, if people don't like it, tough. Or, if you need to challenge the law, you might need to say something that is unlawful because you're pursuing, questioning, that issue around it. And therefore... you're not disrupting the meeting, you're contributing something to the meeting in order for the cause. or to, you know, hypothetically, you know, theorize on it. Other people aren't allowed to disrupt it. But so anyway, basically, all what's set out here in actual law in this Representation of the People Act, if this applies to the right to petition, which I'm sure it does, because it's not like you know, some of these are for, because it's state funded, you know, you get the costs covered and so forth. But it, you know, in a civil or criminal case, you got, you know, even if you haven't won it, you're still engaged in it. And the thing is, so how do you engage in petitioning? Well, you have meetings in places, or you know, like, so if you're, so let's say you're gonna sue, you know, let's say you're gonna sue Jeff Bezos at Amazon, right? If you've got enough money and you're bringing a legal case and you have to gather evidence, not in a criminal matter, but in a civil matter, to sue them and so forth, but it is actual proceedings, that is protected because you're engaged in proceeding of law in connection with a court case. In theory, you know, and disrupting that. So surely, you know, there is protection. Now the thing is, this is a little bit like, you know, like Lord. What I'm going to go into now is a little bit. It's to do with, like, you know, YouTube and Facebook, but also in like you know, private messaging groups, like, you know, Signal and things like that, you know, and so, like, you know, Stop Cop City, but also Extinction Rebellion, and Stop ULEZ and stuff like that. So it's setting out that really, because if you aren't there in person and you have to have meetings, you know, like in Zoom, or you're posting videos backwards and forwards, or issuing any form of statement to the public or a section of the public, it's actually illegal to intervene or disrupt that. Now, YouTube have got some, they put a video out saying that you can't disrupt elections or voting, but that also goes for any case, any case and proceedings, particular petitions to the government. So this is what would protect my new YouTube channel, really. This is what would protect my YouTube channel, but also the 38 Degrees petitions, because the thing is, 38 Degrees aren't a court and they're not government. But they've been removing and intervening in people's petitions, and it's not their petition. I don't care what their policy are. Their policy is not law. And they aren't. If anyone wants to challenge the authenticity or legitimacy of a petition, you see, 38 Degrees might think that you're doing something illegal, and then they're removing it because they shit their pants and they think they're going to get in trouble with their website. But you know, if they haven't done it, the thing is, they aren't a judge, right? But they're acting as if they are one. They, you know, or they're kind of policing your petition, but they haven't got the authority to police it. And if they were policing it, why aren't they why aren't they bringing proceedings against you? They're like, what they're doing is they're taking your petition off you, which is intervening in it, and yet, so where are the proceedings then? Where's court? Well, they're not, because they're not reporting it in. So there can't be anything wrong with it, or they report it in, you know. And the thing is, it gets checked by government anyway. They're supposed to check it for legitimacy anyway. There's also rules in here that people can't make money and promote money for cases. But the thing is with petitions, they're all private. But the thing with 38 Degrees is everyone's giving them money, but with that money, they're picking and choosing which private ones they support. In a way, the money and funding on 38 Degrees is insane because it's almost like, can you imagine, like pro bono are like free. If you can get free lawyer pro bono, like, you don't have to pay, it's free of charge, but anyone can apply. But can you imagine if you were giving money to, some sort of pro bono, but then it's not like pro bono anymore, it's not free anymore if you're giving money to it, is it? Although some of them are charity funded, but, but they're meant to be voluntary. Can you imagine if there was like a lawyer? I mean, you've got the Good Law Project, but they only really do cases to do with environment, like John F. Kennedy style cases, environment and sewage and stuff. They don't really seem to be interested or doing much over rights and so forth. So, if you had some sort of legal website where you could list, can you imagine if, like, you were private prosecutor? Can you imagine there was a private prosecution website, right? And imagine that you gave money to it, you donated to it, and loads of people donated to it, right? And on this private prosecutor site, you uploaded evidence and cases, right? And then, and then what happens is, 38 Degrees just, look at the odd case, and when they pick and choose some, they're going to, help you with it, get it prosecuted for you. But they're choosing it randomly, unfairly, when, you might have a lot of good evidence or whatever, which can be judged on, strength of the case and the evidence, not only just, the number of signatures or the support for the public agreement or witness statements. But you were still giving to that cause and donating to it, but you never seem to get, any help with your case. It would be kind of unfair, and when it's politically motivated, when there are different political motivations, 38 Degrees, they're helping certain people out, picking and choosing, but not other people. That's almost like that they've got their own political party going, because a political party, like the Labour Party, have got policies, we'll do this or that. But 38 Degrees policy seems to be, if you get, a lot of signatures, we'll help you out. But the thing is, if you've got a lot of signatures, you don't need any help because, if you've just gone and got a lot of signatures, like, why would you need any help? You need help when you're not getting a lot of signatures. People who aren't doing well need help. So it seems to evade the point. If you were doing really well and you got a lot of students who are chipping in and helping you and like supporting you, helping you get signatures, you're away. You don't need any help. But then suddenly, like, it pops up on the radar on 38 Degrees and they're like, ooh, this petition's popular, we'll help them out. But they aren't the ones that need help. The ones that need help are the ones that aren't getting any attention or signatures, right? Do you understand me? I mean, it'd be almost like saying, right, we've got a government and there's like 3 major parties and loads of like minority parties, right? And then it's like saying, aren't the Tories doing well? Let's help them out. We'll send loads of emails for the Tories everywhere and promote their political party. Because, and just a minute, everyone's donating to this cause and now you're helping the Tories out. This is it. Oh, no, those Labour are getting a few. Now, this is why I don't like 38 Degrees, but their staff are picking and choosing. But that's what political parties do, pick and choose on, pick and choose on policies, what they're going to support or promote. Now, the thing is, this is when you're doing petitions to the local government, if you've got a Labour MP, it's usually difficult to get him to help support you or the party to support you because, Jason Williamson gets kicked out of the Labour Party. Even Jeremy Corbyn, they don't support his clauses. So Jeremy Corbyn gets booted out of the Labour Party because they don't like his ideas, right? But if he'd have been, donating money to the Labour Party, then that wouldn't be too good, would it? Because he's been giving money to them, but they don't like his ideas. Now, he can give money to 38 Degrees, but if they don't like your ideas and pick them out, then you're not going to do well. And then if, you're doing really, really well, and they go, oh, look, there's someone doing really well here, we'll share this out. But just a minute, it's Laura with a tampon tax petition with Laura Sheriff behind her and Theresa May. It's 300,000 signatures in 8 months. Well, she don't need any help because she's got, every, mum and student helping her. People need help who aren't, are struggling, 38 Degrees don't seem to be helping people out who are struggling. So, as an organisation that you will give money to, you're not in control of, what petitions they help at all. So, it's actually insane. It's like a political party. They're not even a registered political party, but they're really conducting themselves and swaying weight as if they're a political party, but they're not a registered political party. If they were, what are they? The political party of petitions or of independent petitions, but they don't have any. They don't have an MP. It seems wrong to me that there's something really not right about it, and then them taking your petitions down and taking them off you. They're seizing your petitions off you with no legal right. Now they're claiming that you've done something wrong. But, like, for example, you're allowed to get promotion for your petitions. If I weren't allowed to get a private promoter, in these elections, in this representations of the people, you're not allowed to get a private promoter to help you because it's all run under certain regulations fairly. Some people can do things and other people can't. But with your own petition to government, that's different because you're bringing it yourself and the government are helping you unless you achieve the referendum and then it is taken over by the state and you obviously that's all paid for then, right? But in order to get that, you're doing it privately. But what's happening with 38 Degrees is everyone is privately funding 38 Degrees and they're helping people out who don't need help. And they're picking and choosing, Now, if 38 Degrees was like in this, Representation of the People Act, it would be completely illegal and corrupted. And, never mind you not being allowed to go and pay promoters, you won't be able to give money to 38 Degrees to promote it themselves, The thing with the government is we're already paying taxes to the government. There's something really not right about it. I don't like it. And according to this disruption, there are some of these legal principles and the clauses in the Representations of the People Act, some of them have to apply to petitioning the government on the aspect and basis of the you can't be you can't instruct an investigation or a civil case because you're disrupting legal proceedings. Even if they're civil, it's still to a court of law in England. That's the whole point in going there, because if they haven't got any power, then there's no point going to a court. You go to a court because people aren't doing something and you're using powers. You're pursuing getting court powers, and if you're obstructed, you haven't got any power because you can't even get access to the power. So there are these principles at play. So, 38 Degrees, clauses like this, and this is where in the one sentence of the right to petition it says all commitments are illegal. So being held to commitments. So, people intervening in, meetings and so forth. So I really think that, but the thing with YouTube is that they've got this video that's, election intervention and so forth. You're not allowed to use YouTube to, cause interventions and disruptions. Basically, like it's saying out in here, in people's meetings. But YouTube's doing that for elections, but that applies for petitions as well, and for criminal investigations. And this is the thing. YouTube's policy is saying that you can't use YouTube to intervene, but YouTube have got this policy that they can take your video down for any reason, but then they're saying it's illegal to do that, right? So, YouTube actually, according to this Representation of the People Act, and this is this 97, right? This 97 disturbances for petition meetings, this must apply. It's got to. I mean, the thing is that, I called this out on Signal, like on the Signal app, because, there were, when you're having meetings about petitions, they're not meant to be disrupted, but yet you get certain admin who are kicking people out or booting people out. Well, they might think that you're disrupting them, but if you're actually not, if you're not disrupting them, they're disrupting you, from having your fair say. This is why I don't think these blocking and banning buttons are any good. Like Elon Musk reckoned they were getting rid of blocking and banning buttons on X. And this is why I've complained to Mark Zuckerberg about Messenger and about the Facebook groups. Some admin are doing this. When a group is declared for a political cause, really, people shouldn't be excluded or thrown out, from the meetings or from posting and sharing. This is what's going on with a lot of the Stop ULEZ thing, when people are filming for Stop ULEZ, they're filming for Stop ULEZ, making videos and promo and broadcasting, and then the police are coming and seizing their equipment. Now, according to the Representations of the People Act here, the police can't do that for elections. If you're making a video for an election or promo, one that's lawful because, there's strict controls on it, what you can and can't do and say, they can't intervene, Now, journalists broadcast for behalf of these things. As well. So, I definitely think 38 Degrees are breaking some law. They're not a lot. They can't take the petition down. And really, the Petitions Committee in Parliament should tell them to put it back up. If they think that you've done something wrong, then they should have it, to the Supreme Court investigated. But they haven't done. They aren't a. Otherwise, they're intervening. And the thing is, you're not in this Representations of the People Act, and particularly like in the earlier ones. It's set out that you're not responsible for other people's actions. Like other people who sign, they're responsible for their own actions and signatures. So if there's something wrong with their participation, they're responsible for their own participation. So on 38 Degrees, when people are signing petitions, and they're responsible, not you. Even another promoter, if you're getting a promoter to do something, then you're not the promoter. So 38 Degrees, I've challenged them over this. I've told them I'm going to take them to court if they don't put my 3 petitions back up, right? And then they threatened my account. When I had some other petitions still up there. I want to take 38 Degrees to the cleaners because they're really taking it extra seriously because they don't want to get in trouble with the government. And the Petitions Committee have been feeding them quite a lot of rubbish and probably making them kind of like a bit. They're taking it seriously, but not seriously in the proper way. They're like that. They are illegally doing things seriously because they think that it's serious, but what they're actually doing is that if it was that serious, then you're being caught, right? And the thing is, what they're doing is they're the ones breaking the law, themselves, you know. If other people sign it, the petitions, so, 38 degrees, I think, are in breach of these, basically, all the things set out here, in this Representation of the People Act. Disturbance at meetings and online meetings, and even access. This is why it said to the newspaper, they're not allowed to refuse publication because you're using enactment of law. So I also think that Signal groups and Messenger and Facebook groups also are covered by this, and it also applies there as well. Now, if there was a disruption or taking it down, how do you get enforcement? Well, you would either, say to the platform, look, can you put this back up? But platforms at the moment don't offer, to intervene in groups. They're not offering that, to intervene. You can't really speak to anyone there. It's not like eBay when you can, speak to someone at eBay and get something done. You can't actually. Facebook's terrible for communication. You can't really speak to anyone in these social media groups. They don't really want anything to do with it, So I think that the Petitions Committee in Parliament, this is when the 145A powers come in to compel people and summons. The thing is, what I've found out with the Judicial Investigations Office, so with the High Court, so when you've got anything engaged with an authority, like a judicial authority, you're bringing a case to the Parliament Petitions Committee, or you're bringing a case to the criminal court or civil court, or you're bringing a case to a tribunal, or even if you're applying for planning permission with a local council, right? If there are certain things that not being done by any party or so forth, you're meant to. That's why they've got forms and stuff. Now, I filled a form in, and the summon. So the thing with the civil court is it's kind of sort of like a summon stroke subpoena sort of combo form. And the reason for that is for a subpoena, you're wanting evidence or facts or information. Now, usually evidence, facts, or information are held by a person or entity or body or group, or there's always people behind a body or group, So, this is something new that I've learned. So, for the High Court, the form that you do, it's kind of if you fill it in, you can compel a person to attend, in which they're kind of being summoned, or you can instead just compel the information, which is a subpoena. If you just compel them, you don't need them to appear, but you need them to, give the information before a certain date. So depending on what you're requesting and whom, you might be requesting a person to give information themselves from their mouth, then you'll need to summon them. But if you don't need them to give it in person, then you need them to provide or supply it, which is kind of like a subpoena. So that form, depending on how you fill it in and complete it, is multifunctional, so to say, which is something new that I've learned. I don't know about a warrant, but obviously, if you've got the form, you can warrant to go and get the information yourself. But you've got to get someone from court to sign it. I don't know about signing it myself, because for an investigation, I think, police officers, chiefs, chief officer can sign certain things. They've got to have it approved, but, or they've got to get a court order from a justice of the peace or a judge for certain things. But obviously, if you've got a judicial office that you've got a case listed with, like the Petitions Committee of Parliament, then they can sign it, because they've got powers to. But the thing is, they're not offering that and they're not doing it. I'm looking into this now with the Judicial Office of Investigations, because, obviously that is an investigative office in a court. So, this is with YouTube and the YouTube channels. But the thing is, the YouTube channel So YouTube, if you're broadcasting or having, video meetings or video exchanges with other persons or parties in relations to a case that you've got, then it on the basis of this act here, this Representations of the People Act, it's illegal for them to take the channel down or intervene. And none of their policies can intervene in that process. They can't have a policy. This is the thing. When your policy is that we will comply and obey with all the laws, and statutes, foreign and state and federal law, then then they can't start writing provisions which let them do what they want to. Same with 38 degrees, so they've got to make their policies to be compatible with that. Which means that, if there's anything in discussion in this meeting which has a legal right of non-intervention, then their policy can't intervene, right? Their policy isn't allowed to intervene, right? So, the Petitions Committee at Parliament aren't doing anything. All this, and I've tried, I won't mind, but I've tried. I mean, you might say, well, you're not getting the right forms. Have they got any forms? You're not approaching them properly. A lot of people don't want to talk to them, these 11 committee people, because the way they conduct themselves in rejecting petitions and coming out with absolute tosh and lying about what you can and can't petition about, and then all these standards, and then, you ask them what legislation the committee is operating on, and they don't even know what Town and Country Planning Act they're using when they're publishing their own advertisements, whether it's in public or private, and what class they are and so forth, on their own website servers and things. It's digital, even though it's private, still. Because when you actually get your petition listed on there, it's got a classification, and it's on a public web. The Petitions Committee website is private, and really that committee, where their standards, in a way, they're intervening. When you got certain rights of certain address. So, I think the Petitions Committee itself, as a each committee and a subcommittee of Parliament with, powers, when they're not conducting themselves properly, when they're, if they're not doing things that are required, if they're not, if they're refusing to enforce your rights, which is overriding objectives, basically. If they're refusing to act to enforce overriding objectives, like when you're sharing, and they give directions to share on their website or on private platforms and by email. So, like, on the Petitions Committee website, it gives you directions which are powered through standing orders to use email to send communications. Now, if Yahoo or if, Gmail or if, Hotmail is not delivering your mail or refusing to, this is like in this Representation of the People Act, it's like Royal Mail. Not only have Royal Mail to deliver it, but you don't even have to pay them. If it's for an election, but email's free anyway. So, and they say share by email. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever contacted them on this. I don't know what, The Spectator are doing, all these, aloof, affluent, people in London, Central London, Notting Hill, extreme elite journalism, political debate circles of intellectuals and philosophers who have, sniffing around in David Cameron, Boris Johnson, cocktail party elite circles like, The Spectator channel or whatever, there's, well-educated individuals, well-spoken, well-educated academic individuals in politics, who read every letter, punctuation, and, whatever in the newspaper, like Jonathan M. Fuller does or whatever. But, it's, I don't know who's writing what to Parliament. If put it this way, if Dr. Tess Lowry is getting told by Bristol Council to remove a banner for which is advertising for witnesses for a case to government, then, if she can't even, she's not writing to the Petitions Committee to get, standing orders, to get a promo material restored. So you're bringing a case opposing the opposing not only the council, opposing the government, the whole political party. I don't think that people are writing, to the Petitions Committee, because most people that either, don't get that many signatures, or if they do, they don't really need any help because, people are just going around begging on, Facebook groups or whatever, or if it gets popular, it just kind of helps itself. But, 38 Degrees are picking and choosing and helping people, but, that's at their discretion, and not people who need the help, people who don't need the help. You really need some help to get it going, to get it started. So, and at least on change.org, people can put money into specific causes rather than it kind of being very politically directed, almost like a political party in a way that you're paying for, but aren't helping you, So I think that, the Petitions Committee are actually, you can complain about the Petitions Committee to the Judicial Investigation Office because, it's like they've got the Lord Chief Justice is in charge of it overall, and, that's House of Lords, and that's the whole point, the House of Lords does have jurisdictive authority over Parliament, the Privileges Committee and so forth is, monitoring the ministers. So the Petitions Committee really, if you give them a freedom of information, they'll help you out, and send you documents, send you information. So it's not like, oh no, we're too busy, we can't, this is, beyond our capacity or whatever. They're just lying. I mean, even when you actually submit things that are factual and legitimate, they're trying to make out that, it's something that they can't do. Well, when you actually write in all the legislation and, the method by which you're doing it, then there's nowhere left to write in, what you're asking for exactly, because you're arguing about, that you can do something, not about what it is that you can do. It should be, it should be more like the online small claims court, but they're trying to keep it basic and simple. I don't think that it's basic and simple when it's like extremely gravely serious matters such as, World Health Organization stripping the rights of the whole nation and overriding them all at a whim, particularly when, the 1700 Act of Settlement says that you can't, so yeah, I'm actually getting to the stage now of reporting the Petitions Committee to the Judicial Investigations Office as well, because they're not, they're not offering us any other enforcement powers which are required to, for function, to facilitate function, which is like, out in the statutory instruments 2007, which is required a function for sharing and promotional. In fact, they're even giving, like, they're giving directions on the website. Like, share this. Well, I can't share it. I'm being obstructed. Well, yeah, it says share it. Well, I've tried, but, I'm being obstructed, you said share it by email. Well, Yahoo are rejecting them, Well, I need to do something about it, Well, that's what the standing orders powers are for, or they haven't got any powers, And if why petition an office that doesn't have any powers? And if you don't have the power to petition them, if you've been obstructed, then you don't have any powers either. So you don't have. If you don't have any powers, you don't have any rights. So they're being very naive. I don't know if it's the ministers. I don't know whether it's Scott Benton, Martin Day, the chairman. I don't know whether it's, the Prime Minister, it's the Ministry of Justice who are misguiding them. I don't know whether they're just dumb or stupid. I'm not sure. Not sure really. But something needs to be done because, your MP really, if you're petitioning, the Parliament and using YouTube, your MP could sign, really, it says that a minister, a member of Parliament can sign things with the jurisdiction of Parliament, even if they're not in the cabinet, because they're a member of the Parliament, and if it's to the Parliament, so your MP really can sign it. But have they got a form? This is the thing. I mean, can you use if the civil forms applied to all levels of, civil court in civil matters? I mean, can you fill? I'm starting to think now. I'm doing it through Judicial Conduct Investigations Office now because it's an investigation. Because once you've got a case with the Judicial Investigations Office, then that's the case, isn't it? Because you've brought a case to them against a judge, so you've got a case with the office. But it's a shame that I've got to raise these matters, in an investigation against a judge in order to get my YouTube channel back when the place, the committee that I was petitioning in the first place that should, be using enforcement powers has never, used them, never wants to, exercise them or apply. And then that's what you end up getting in a lot of trouble for, and then you end up having to bring a case against, judges and so forth. I'm starting to think now that really theoretically, I don't know if Parliament have forms. They must have forms for themselves. This is a Parliament form. Or just write a letter. But I know something was going on with that David Davis MP when his channel got taken down. I don't know whether you can get the High Court form, and then, because it says write which court it is, because there are a few different courts, you have to write down which court it is. You might be able to write, Parliament Petitions Committee in the address, right? And the standing orders powers. But then you'd have to get one of the 11 members to sign it, unless your MP can sign it. You might be able to get your MP to sign it, And then that's what I'm thinking now. But I'm already kind of doing it through the investigations office, because that is a case itself, with the High Court anyway. But I think that this should go for Facebook, YouTube, all these signal groups and so forth, if you get removed from a group. Because this is what it's saying here, securing meeting. It's for securing meetings for official casework matters. And I don't think, this is the thing, a lot of people like doing campaign work and cheering with banners and turning up, Republic.org, they like turning up and speaking through megaphones and shouting and chanting with banners and so forth. But, you don't have to do that if you just, have an online meeting. But then what about Roger Hallam? You know, he was in an online meeting and then he got spied on and then he got reported in, you know, and arrested or whatever because he was like, apparently, you know, one of the other political parties, you know, grassed him in for conspiring or whatever. You know, if you are, you know, going about legitimate things and legitimate means and manner, then, you know, there's enforcement powers to actually enforce these, not just, you know, break them up and so forth. All through this act as well, I need to point out there's a lot of things that forbid police interventions. But there are supposed to be certain things that facilitate a prosecutor to assist, or if there's a complaint against it, you know. But they're not doing any complaints against when people are actually disrupting or intervening you, which, you know, this is the thing with Andrew Bridgen as well. I really need to make a separate part on this. I've said this in another video. So I don't think that Andrew Bridgen MP should be collecting money from the public to bring a private case when he's already an elected member of Parliament. He's already protected under the jurisdiction of Parliament, and we've already paid our tax money. And one of his colleague caseworkers in Parliament, Matt Hancock, is, you know, harming his chances in elections by, you know, broadcasting things on Twitter which may, you know, disfavour Andrew Bridgen. Well, that's actually illegal, and it needs a Crown prosecutor. You know, why ain't he gone to the Privileges Committee? You know, and that's all paid for. You know, Matt Hancock can be fined, like Boris Johnson or whatever. But what's happened is, why is Andrew Bridgen? Why are we paying money for some private case and then he's giving it all to charity? Well, actually, you'll find that all the broadcasting rules pertain to any potential upcoming election, whether it is currently actually running or not, even if it may affect an election, right? So that means that, you know, Matt Hancock is, you know, affecting Bridgen's election chances through his channel, you know, then he shouldn't be on there. And this is why Jacob Rees-Mogg really shouldn't be on there. And I'm going to do another piece on that, but there are two separate sections for broadcasting in the Representations of the People Act, and it's, you know, I don't think Ofcom have taken the full consideration into account, because Ofcom really should have done something about Matt Hancock. But what about the Conservative advertisement, you know, where it's, you know, mocking, you know, where it's mocking Alex Salmond and Ed Miliband, you know? But that they're running that through the campaign and through their official casework, you know? I'm not sure whether they could do that advert or not. And if they can, you know, if they're allowed to do it for their official own advertising for their campaign, but that's not being, you know, I think when you have an advert on there, I think anyone can, you know, have an ad. But the thing is, when you become a presenter on the channel, you're directing the channel as a thing, and that's why Mod can't be on there. And those rules are widened and more diverse when it comes to global and worldwide. There's separate for local, but the thing with YouTube is that it's global. Everyone in the world can watch, and you upload. But once you've uploaded it to YouTube headquarters, which is at, you know, 901 Cherry Avenue in San Bruno, and then that's where it's all being, you know, sent from. So really, that falls under the classification of Rees-Mogg, you know, for it's really international broadcasting availability, and the rules for that are actually that would get him taken off GB News. there's something wrong with this Andrew Bridgen case. And I think that the reason they don't want to do it is because then it definitely will put Rees-Mogg under questioning from a prosecutor, and not just Ofcom. Ofcom are meant to refer it to prosecutors, I think, if they want to take action, if it's illegal. But you don't have to go through Ofcom. That's the thing. You could complain to the Parliament Privileges Committee. Or the Judicial Conduct Investigations. Well, I could report it to the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office, because if there is a judge hearing a case which Andrew Bridgen submitted to the Royal Court of Justice, why are they hearing a case privately that's been paid for when those matters are meant to be covered by the taxpayer and a prosecutor is already meant to be paid for? And it's meant to be the jurisdiction of Parliament anyway, not Bridgen coming private to the High Court. He's not bringing a prosecutor. These are actually offences. I think Andrew Bridgen's not taking it seriously enough. I don't think he wants to have Matt Hancock prosecuted. I think he's toying with him. He just wants, some money out of him or whatever for it. And just to, I think, Matt Hancock, it's almost like casting the glove. He wanted to, Matt Hancock said this or that, and Andrew Bridgen's disgruntled with it. And he wants, he's outraged, and he wants to take him to court and sue him, which is kind of like Mr. Candyhand, isn't it? It's like Mr. Soft. Won't you take me to the land in which your living is so strange and soft and expensive? Oh, Andrew Bridgen, won't you suck on a soft mint and, give Matt Hancock a kiss on the cheek and, while you put your hand in his pocket and pull some money out, I'll send money into Andrew Bridgen, and the thing is, I support Bridgen and his party, but it says here, if anyone broadcasts anything, which includes Twitter, that affects people's outcome in an election, then they've got to be prosecuted, even if the election's not running, even if it has the potential of affecting an upcoming election. So I don't really know what is Bridgen doing? Now, if he's been lied to or misled by his... Well, I know that he hasn't been talking to a lot of people in Parliament. He's been sat by himself and he's been thrown out of his party and they've sent to an office with no windows and so forth. But he's really... I think that, then he's coming and asking us for money and he's, oh, don't worry, we'll give it to charity if there's any left over after the, 80 grand that we get off you, He could have ended up paying. He could have saved Stonehenge Tunnel with that, Or we could have had he could have paid for another election. He could have paid for his own election, He could have paid for an election, He could have paid for a referendum on Matt Hancock in his ward, He could have petitioned, for that amount of money. He could have had a polling card sent through every house in, Matt Hancock's ward and said, should we have him removed because, he's I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And then he could have sent them all into Parliament and had a referendum on it locally, There's something wrong going on here. YouTube aren't getting prosecuted. YouTube should be prosecuted by the Petitions Committee in Parliament in the High Court for taking people's petitions down. And they're not immune for that because their immunity is only for... as a third party between copyright claims, not when they actually break some of these quite serious laws. Here, they ain't got immunity from that because they've got a policy on there for elections, but that's also for petitions as well. And then there's 38 Degrees. Who are they're seizing, they're taking my petition, which you can't intervene in that process. They seem to think that they are the court or a judicial body, or they're some sort of designated or appointed, whatever. I haven't appointed them, to do anything. and I haven't definitely appointed them or given permission to take the case down. You can't do that. If they're saying some of the signatures aren't valid, and if the signatures aren't valid, they haven't even actually fully checked them anyway. And in Parliament are meant to be the ones who check them. And, no one's challenged it. It's been taken down without any court challenge. So there is no claim as far as I'm concerned, unless they go to the court with it. And then the Petitions Committee are not doing anything to 38 Degrees. They're probably told 38 Degrees to take it down, which like 77th Brigade. I think what we've got the Petitions Committee, instead of helping people and enforcing the law, what they're actually doing is they're using the law to stop people against them. It's almost like they're rubbing their hands together, and it's like Andrew Bridgen getting kicked out of his party, or Jeremy Corbyn, just because he doesn't agree with the policies, and he's got his own policies, that he prefers the party to go in. It's basically like that. And all these things should be prosecuted against. And all of the matters and issues now need to come under the Judicial Investigations Office and the Lord Chief Justice, because the Petitions Committee actually must be under the House of Lords, Lord Chief Justice. We're not having any enforcement powers at all whatsoever. And this Representations of the People Act, although it's for elections, it's actually, what it's doing is it's giving you an idea of, what you can and can't do. And many of these things apply to casework in all, all of these things in the Representation of the People Act, particularly for facilitating engagement, and serving a function, that's why you're going to a court, because it's got powers, or you don't have any. So, I mean, I think even, really, the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman, we complain about MPs to, but what about the Privileges Committee, And the thing is, if it's, the thing with, why would I go to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman or the Privileges Committee if, both Rees-Mogg and Matt Hancock have been, saying things, which may, Well, the thing is, Rees-Mogg, by the very presence of himself as a presenter in a permanent position on his channel, is giving himself an electoral advantage globally. Supporters all over the world, not just in his local area, And, he's getting the... he's getting supporters for him, which is giving him an electoral advantage. And that's what I don't think he understands, that part. He just doesn't get that part. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't get it. And he's coming from 901 Cherry Avenue, and he's getting an electoral advantage over his other MPs. And that is something that's prosecuted for through this Representation of the People Act, a quite serious crime, even if you're an MP. I can complain about that to the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office, because Ofcom are, meant to be bringing cases, and there was a select committee as well, which is a judicial, meant to have, decision-making powers. There were several judicial authorities dealing with this matter of Jacob Rees-Mogg who aren't dealing with it properly. They're not dealing with it properly, So, and a lot of them are judicial authorities and judicial bodies. So, and Matt Hancock as well, so that there are complaints against the judge who's dealing with Andrew Bridgen. there are complaints against all of the judicial officials who are dealing with the Jacob Rees-Mogg and Ofcom cases and select committee cases. Because Rees-Mogg is that channel is global. It's not just local broadcasting; it's global broadcasting. And the fact is that it says any person. It doesn't matter what position you are, what rank you are. It says any person. Mogg he is being placed at an advantageous position, pole position for polling. And, you might say, well, what about, all these people now have got social media, all these people, Matt Hancock, they've got their own Twitter, they've got their own channels, they've got their own MP's channel. True, but, people like Barry Shearman, you can't even put comments on there, and he only really just uploads videos of the debates and so forth, Not many of the Labour, you don't really get Labour MPs, behaving like Boris Johnson and Rees-Mogg, having newspaper columns and flamboyant, appearing on Top Gear. And it's a different kind of politician. And this is the thing that we're calling them out on, really. It's true the modern world's changing, but I don't think the law is up to speed with it. These people are... When you have an advert, right, you can advertise. You can advertise. But major channels, which are owned by broadcasting corporations that have licenses and so forth, you're not meant to be presenting. I don't know really what's going on with the YouTube channels. I mean, this is the whole thing, Reclaim the Media. I think Lawrence Fox has got a revolution. He's leading a revolution against the whole thing. But while it's still illegal, it's kind of almost like Extinction Rebellion. It's probably this, really, Rees-Mogg and Lawrence Fox and Matt Hancock as well, they are really online. When Matt Hancock is doing this Andrew Bridgen, claim thing, it should be prosecuted by a prosecutor, because that is the thing that he's saying, that he, affected his electoral popularity, right? That's what he's saying, and that has to be prosecuted against, because it's a crime. And the fact that Bridgen's going after money from the public, large amounts of money to go to the court, is wrong. And I don't really think Bridgen wants... The thing is, Bridgen doesn't want Matt Hancock to be prosecuted for saying that, and he doesn't want it acknowledged that it's affecting his electoral success, because then it will undoubtedly result in Rees-Mogg being removed, because Rees-Mogg is doing the opposite. What Bridgen is saying that, look, Matt Hancock basically is affecting my standing as an MP, and, I'm running next time. Now, that is a prosecutable offence if he's guilty of it. Now, Bridgen, why hasn't he reported it? Now, the thing is, Rees-Mogg is the same thing, but the opposite end of the spectrum. So it's like, instead of Matt Hancock saying things that are bad for some other MP and then affecting the electoral success and being prosecuted because he won't get any votes in the next election as much, Rees-Mogg, on the other hand, is, by his very presence and, being able to be in a position of not being critiqued, he can control all politics discussion, subjects, topics, and win over the public by his position, which is gaining him an advantage, which is the opposite of what Andrew Bridgen's claiming from Matt Hancock. Now, both of those are prosecutable because they're affecting the outcomes, right, in their election, whether or not Rees-Mogg wants to run again next time or not. He says if it could, right, he might change his mind at the last minute. He might say he's not going to run, and then he might say he will. No, it's like it's like spinning the wheel. I'm gonna run next time. No, I'm not. No, I am now. I can't decide. Just hold out a bit longer. I can't decide. 5 seconds left, Reese. Go on, I'll run then. Those things about what Matt Hancock said about you before. This is it. Andrew Bridgen even. The Crown Prosecution Service are failing. They're failing. And we need, the Judicial Conduct Office needs to do something. The Crown Prosecution Service are not doing anything. The MPs are not reporting in the correct way, because I don't think Andrew Bridgen, it's Lawrence Fox wants to reclaim the media for politics, right? That's his mission, right? Or for politicians in elections. And this is not petitions to the government. This is for people who are serving, right? Elected people serving, right? And parties that have politicians. And if Andrew Bridgen, does it the proper way, which it's meant to, and if the CPS do in the courts, then you can't reclaim the media, because Matt Hancock and Rees-Mogg, possibly even Boris Johnson for his newspaper thing, and then even the Reclaim the Media Party is gonna possibly cave. So he didn't like what Matt Hancock said, and he was pissed off about it. So what he's doing is dicking around. He's messing around. He's messing around. Getting money in, massive amounts of money from people, and he's pussyfooting around in this High Court, right? But over the defamation, well. Yeah, normally a business, a company, a commercial sector, John versus Jack or whatever. This is an elected MP with another elected MP. And it's affecting their standing in political, public opinion polling. So I'm starting to I've had enough of these people, and Johnson as well, with his column, with his Nelson's column, while he's Prime Minister as well. And then there's the whole tax of the newspapers as well, when they've been taxing us, for when we're non-profits and, we're doing political material, not in an election, by the way, just trying to attempt to get an election, non-profit. So, I think that there's some serious issues, and also in this Representation of the People Act, it clearly sets out, this is not just for, it says that, it's the authority of which you are bringing the matter to, is where the jurisdiction lies, in all matters and challenges, which I want to do another separate video about. So, there are various issues, including the online platforms. We need the Petitions Committee to be investigated, really, and possibly, Lord Chief Justice is really going to have to prosecute all of Parliament, really, because we've got all these new modern devices and websites, and they're what they're doing is they're kind of they're running, they're they're kind of like getting ahead of themselves too quickly, and they don't really know what they're doing, and they want to. It's almost like, you know, they like these things. They like the, you know, it's like Boris Johnson, isn't it? You know, he liked Top Gear. You know, he wants. You know, this is. You know, it's the difference between Boris Johnson, you know, and Barry Sheeman. Even though I'm not a great fan of Barry Sheeman at all, or Keir Starmer, but the Labour Party seem to command this. This is what, you know, Corbyn's been kicked out of the Labour Party or whatever, but for different matters. You know, Corbyn appears on a lot of shows, but not in the same. He not in the same sort of. The MPs are kind of like wanting to become celebrities, like, you know, on television, because they're getting sucked in to the whole entertainment thing, and they're throwing the rules and discarding the rules in order to facilitate their own personal success and popularity, which is not really supposed to be allowed. It's almost like the House of Lords, you know, really. Or, you know, unless you're into politics or some sort of professor or you know, a keen, you know, statesman or whatever, the general public aren't really aware too much of what goes on in the House of Lords, or, you know, high sheriffs and, you know, barons and the whole, you know, circles of that. These people are the people who are involved in the country, in the running of the country, but they're not really. Their purpose is not to be, you know, entertainment or celebrities or anything. You know, unless they're, you know, wafting the sword around at, you know, King Charles's coronation, you know, or you know, doing it 6 times on the House of the Commons floor for a laugh or whatever, you know. So there's something wrong with it all. But anyway, I've got some really compelling evidence from this Representation of the People Act now, which definitely sets out the case for the jurisdictions. And I don't think that it's going to be that the Magistrates' Court jurisdiction is valid at all whatsoever for petitions to Parliament when you're being challenged in any way in your actions, even if you've broken the law, because this Representation of the People Act supports the Tumultuous Petition Act in the jurisdictions. The hundreds courts and the normal courts aren't used, particularly when it's a matter to central government. So, anyway.